What's up, everybody? What's up, MGTOW? So this isn't really a MGTOW video. It's more just on the topic of black women and white supremacy, which I guess you could classify under IBMOR or something like that. But just in general, I just wanted to talk on the topics of the term supremacy itself and present some arguments against using the broad generalized term of quote-unquote white supremacy. Now, in general, supremacy is real. There are people that are better than other people at things. But from my view, it's always a situational thing. There's many examples of this. Japanese people on average are the best video game players in the world, but there's very few Japanese people in the NFL. European people are great at engineering, however, bring them down to the equatorial regions and have them work for 12-hour shifts in the field with no air conditioning and no sunscreen, and let's see what happens. Put the world's best combat soldiers in a room with the world's best chess masters and threaten to shoot the losers of the chess match and see who lives. Similarly, women are better at convincing men to serve their interests than men are at convincing women to serve their interests. But then again, I didn't see many women around when I was loading 150-pound packages over my head for 6-hour straight shift in over 100-degree temperatures. So to me, supremacy, quote-unquote, is more about situations than absolutes. And when it comes to supremacy within a capitalist system, personally, I think it's best to minimize purchases of things one themselves cannot produce, as purchasing things one cannot produce supports a situational dominance of those who are in a better position to produce said things. So, for example, in the case of MGTOW, I cannot produce vagina. So, therefore, I divest from any vaginal interest, since it only lends to the situational dominance of females. Now, when it comes to the general use of the term quote-unquote white supremacy, you can see how this blanket term is effectively useless. Perhaps if you're referring specifically to German automotive supremacy or Wisconsin cheese supremacy, that would make sense, but just saying white supremacy is nonsensical at best, and it ignores the areas in which black people are dominant in. So, my first argument against using the term white supremacy is an argument based in female hypergamy. Since we have established that the word supreme is synonymous with the word better, then follows that for the last 60 years or more, black social and political leaders have fundamentally been shouting at blacks, whites are better than us. No matter how you couch it, the term white supremacy is the same as saying whites are better than me. So how do you think hypergamous women mentally respond on a subconscious level to this phrase being frequently chanted by male black leaders in the community? Whites are better than me. Whites are better than me. This phrase is commonly used amongst the community, in the media, and by black politicians. And just to top it all off, this term is commonly followed by statements of weakness. For example, whites are better than me, and they're stopping me from doing X. Or, whites are better than me, and I'm worried they will shoot me. When you put it in this more direct way of saying it, instead of saying white supremacy and saying whites are better than me, you can see how this could psychologically affect the community as a whole, and even more specifically, how it's interpreted by women whose hypergamous nature is fine-tuned to subconsciously detect markers of power differentials in individual males and general male populations. So basically, women's mind is designed to figure out which man is better than another man, and then when you're constantly saying, whites are better than me, whites are better than me, how do you think subconsciously black women are going to interpret this? My second point is that black women have used the word white supremacy as an excuse to abandon the black male and the black family. Whenever black women are questioned or pressed about issues affecting the black community, for example, abortion, somehow abortion becomes white supremacy. Although I don't see many white people putting guns to the heads of black women and marching them into abortion clinics. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Some of the most staunch anti-abortionists in the world are white men, even though this is the exact group black women would blame for the majority of the abortions that are performed in the black community. When they're saying that abortion is white supremacy, it's not. It's black women doing it. It's not white men. And like I said, white men are probably the most anti-abortion people in the United States, at least. But on the other hand, guns are held to black men's heads as they are marched into jails for back child support. But when was the last time you saw black women demanding the release of all black men who owe child support? They're actually more likely to demand the release of a guy that's been put in jail for drugs or for shooting somebody than to demand the release of black men that are just in jail for child support. And that's ridiculous. And that's not white supremacy. That's black women not doing shit about fixing the community. Another prime example is black women and the feminist movement. This topic itself could fill several hours of video, but I'll try and keep it short here. Black women will try to deny their role in the feminist movement, which has benefited black women greatly at the expense of black men and the black family. First off, affirmative action was designed, at least in theory, to offer job opportunities to underprivileged and often underqualified black men. However, feminist women of all races demanded that women, who are not a minority, be given minority status, which in turn allowed women to gain access to affirmative action jobs that were specifically designed to go to black men. And yes, while it's true that white women benefited the most from this sleight of hand trick, black women not only supported this, but also come in close second as far as beneficiaries of affirmative action, leaving black men behind. And then black women have the nerve to refer to black men negatively that can't find gainful employment. I propose that it's time for affirmative action to stop, and the window in which it was justified has closed. Moreover, it would benefit black men and the black family as a whole to remove as many black women from the workforce as possible, and specifically from many government jobs they hold. So, one of the many reasons the black male unemployment rate is so high is because black women worked with white feminists to exclude black men from educational and occupational opportunities that were offered through the government affirmative action programs. And at this point, cutting affirmative action could only prove beneficial to black men. And again, I don't see white men putting guns to black women's heads and forcing them to reject family life in exchange for government jobs and other handouts. Yet I do see police putting guns to the heads of young black males who are now gang members who see the only way of making a living by selling narcotics and using illegal guns. But where are the black women rejecting affirmative action positions and demanding that young black men take their place? They don't exist. They're not there. Now, I'm not going to cover welfare in this video because I don't want to go on a raging tangent about it, except to say that no one put a gun to black women's head to put the black man out of the family in exchange for checks from Uncle Sam. But I'm sure any black women that are listening to this will deflect their own decisions to do so, putting black men out of the family and out of the home, by mumbling something about white supremacy. But in all, I think you get my drift. Sure, 60, 100, 200 years ago, some of the issues facing the black community were directly due to slavery. But I don't see many white people walking around with whips these days. So maybe it's time to retire the term white supremacy and look a little more into female fuckery for once. But then again, my clear logical points will mostly be met with ambiguous chants of "you coonin'." So that's all I got for this one. Have a good day and go MGTOW.